Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the day two of MBA Spotlight, our first MBA virtual fair hosted by GMAT Club. We will have top schools joining us every single day to talk about their programs. We'll also host admission experts to weigh in on your profiles on GMAT Club chat. And finally, we will also have current student panels talking about their MBA experiences. I want to introduce you to Katy from MIT Sloan today. Katy, why don't you take it away?
Great. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. My name is Katy. I manage recruiting at MIT Sloan, and you are chatting online right now with my colleague Reed, who's also a member of our recruiting team. And our goal today is to just share as much information and hopefully answer as many lingering questions for you about MIT and about the Sloan School of Management's MBA program. So I'm going to go through the slides pretty quickly. That way we can have as much time as possible for an open Q&A. So I always like to start with who is at MIT Sloan. And right here you can see our portfolio of master's degree programs. Today I'm here to really focus on the two programs you see at the center of the spectrum. That's our full-time 2-year MBA program, as well as I'll be highlighting the Leaders of Global Operations, or LGO program. Each year, we matriculate about 415 full-time MBA students to MIT Sloan with a September start, and 50 or so of those MBA students are also an LGO student, which means they're earning a Master's of Engineering and an MBA from MIT in 2 years. As we go, if you have questions, we're happy to pull those out as well. We also have a couple of executive level MBA programs, as well as the farther end of the spectrum, our early career or career launcher master's programs. So if anyone out there is a current college senior, this could or a current college student or university student could include applying for deferred admissions while you're in university to join a future MBA class. So who is in the class? Who is an MIT MBA student? These are just some quick demographic numbers of our class of 2021. So they are just finishing their first year of school. And I'm sure, like all MBA students around the world, they've had an interesting first year of school, given the pandemic that we're experiencing globally. What I want to pull out here is that it is a very, very diverse group of students. We often see upwards of 40 different countries, if not more, represented in the classroom, and sometimes as many different university majors, different functions at work, different industries that folks are coming from. My goal when I'm looking at building a class for the MBA program at MIT is that you don't feel like you're going to a conference every day, that you're within your industry, that you're learning as much from the people sitting around you as you are from the faculty that you'll be having classes with. So I want to come back to this screen. You can see there's a few notes at the bottom about how to customize your academic experience. So at MIT Sloan, our MBA is a general management focused MBA with a pretty strong thread of data science, or how you drive decision making through data and both quantitative and qualitative. We have a 1-semester core at MIT, so that very first semester of school is pre-prescribed for you. It's a general management core, again, with the sort of science of management, analytical tools and frameworks built in to that 1-semester core. In your second, third, and fourth semesters of the MBA program, it is as flexible as you want that to be. You can create your own path through MIT based on what you know is next for you in your career path. And there's lots of people around the institute and around the school that will give you solicited and unsolicited advice. But if it's also daunting to think about choosing from hundreds of electives at MIT Sloan every semester, or you know you're going to be a career changer from one industry to another, we do have some ways to add some structure. The most structure you'll see on the right of your screen are what we call tracks. These are in finance, enterprise management and entrepreneurship and innovation. They will set a prescribed set of electives that you will pick from in that second, third, and fourth semester. A lot more structure other than kind of cherry picking and customizing that curriculum. Somewhere in the middle is what we call certificates, and these are in healthcare, sustainability, and analytics. And you will have some flexibility to choose outside of the healthcare electives per se, but there will be certain boxes you need to check on a semester basis in order to earn that certificate. What I do want to say is a lot of things at MIT, including the certificates and tracks, are non-binding. So if you start, say, the finance track or the enterprise management track, you're not required to see that all the way through. MIT, as we'll get to know here in the next 40 minutes or so, is kind of like a candy store. We want you to follow your curiosities, and that sometimes means that your plans you came in with suddenly make a change because you met someone in class, or you got engaged in a club, or participated in a hackathon, and suddenly you're off and running in a completely different direction. And MIT wants to make sure that you have that flexibility. Another key component to the learning experience at MIT, specifically at MIT Sloan, is through action learning. This is a pedagogy that will ground you in what you're learning in the classroom, connecting you in small groups to real companies with real problems. And these are semester-long projects with classroom as well as on-site experiences. Sometimes that on-site experience will be just across the river in Boston at maybe a large organization, and other times it may be working in an emerging market with a local entrepreneur who's looking to grow beyond their borders. There's about 15 different action learning courses, and I highly recommend that you try to participate in one of those electives, but some students even will elect into 2 of them. You also have the opportunity to cross-register and take electives outside of the Sloan School of Management at MIT. You can also cross-register at Harvard's professional schools and vice versa. All of the students are coming in and out of the Sloan School. But I think what's most important to remember is that you are an MIT graduate student in the Sloan School of Management enrolled in the MBA program. And so there's so much for you to take advantage of across MIT. I think the challenge is there's so much to do. It's deciding what you're not going to have time to participate in. So it's good to do your research before you come on campus, explore a little, again, follow those curiosities, and talk to current students, talk to alumni, talk to your advisors about how to gain access or where you should gain access across MIT. We talked a lot about the academics. There is a lot of fun that happens, and hopefully this week you're able to log in and learn from our current students that are going to be joining the panels throughout the week to learn about how they balance the academic experience of a rigorous program like MIT with the student life experience. When I was on the advising side for one of our degree programs, I often told my students that they should plan to spend upwards of 50% of their time outside the classroom. This is your opportunity to build an ecosystem around you, build a network. That may mean taking leadership roles in clubs or conferences or initiatives, but it also just means a lot of the fun that happens. Weekends, maybe hiking or going out to new restaurants in Boston with the Happy Belly Club. You should definitely think about your MBA experience at MIT as being both inside and outside the classroom. I have to also talk a little bit about career development. That's obviously a major milestone in this experience. We have a fantastic career development office at MIT Sloan. We affectionately call them the CDO. They will start exposing you and onboarding you to the career development team and programming in the summer prior to your matriculation in September, depending on the year that you join the program. The career development core, which we call the career core or the requirements of the career development office, are now built in and streamlined with that first semester core. The leadership of the CDO worked very closely over the past few years with the faculty that lead the core semester, specifically our communications and organizational processes faculty, because we saw through feedback from current students that there were a lot of steps along the way where the two different contents could align really, really well. The Career Development Office will do everything from industry lunches where you can meet and talk to folks that are coming in from an industry to give you some highlights about how to navigate the career market in that specific industry, to large career fairs, and everything back down to one-on-one coaching, whether it's I'm not sure which path is right for me and how to get there, to resume review, cover letter writing, interview prep, as well as maybe negotiating that offer. I like to point out the Career Development Office is a resource that you have for life. And so it's good to understand how that office works on campus, because when you graduate, you may want to come back a couple of years later when you're ready for that next step in your career and take advantage of the services that they offer. So no breaking news right now on the application process. Our new application will launch this summer. I would expect by end of July, early August, and that's when we'll announce our deadlines. I don't expect there to be any major changes to what you see on the screen. This is exactly what we had this past year. We made a few iterations last year, which I believe are going to stick, including reducing the letters of recommendation to just one, and then asking for 2 additional references. Quick note on the references: if we call your references during this process, don't worry about it. And if we do, don't worry about it. But this is sort of a timeline that you can expect for next year. Our first round will be in late September, early October, followed by a round 2 in January, and then a final round 3 in April. LGO has similar deadline for round 1, and then their round 2 deadline is in December. And that's because they actually start school, the LGO students, in June. And so we need to expedite that process when we think about getting folks ready to move to MIT to be on campus for school. We do require an interview as part of this process, and they are conducted by our admissions committee. Traditionally, I would have said that they were all in person. We travel all over the world to major hub cities, but right now, all of those interviews are being conducted virtually, typically via Skype. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I know I want to leave as much time for your questions. I just wanted to highlight a few links on our website or resources that can be helpful as you're exploring MIT as a place that you may want to spend the next 2 years. We have throughout the summer small group coffee chats with myself or members of my admissions team, and we'll be adding them for our current students now that they're wrapped up their spring semester and will be partaking in their summer internships. And then we have a couple of chats and virtual information sessions that I'm coming up in June that I've listed here. So with that, I will open it up, I guess, for the Q&A. Okay. I don't see Suvik. So let's see. I don't see Suvik on, who I think was going to help me with the questions.
Hey, Katie, how are you doing?
Here we are.
Hey, so if you can come back to StreamYard, all your questions will appear on the screen. Is that good?
Yep, I see them. Yep, great.
Perfect. So I'll keep rolling the questions in the background and you can keep answering them.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. I'm going to go back and hide in my room.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
Great. So I will, let's see, which question should we start with? Okay, so I see a question here about how the Media Lab plays a role in the 2-year MBA program. There's a couple of different ways. The most common way is through cross-registration or electives that you can take while you're a current MBA student. You can cross-register to the other schools of study at MIT Sloan up to 3 times, maybe once per semester, or you'll want to maybe use more of those opportunities throughout one specific semester. There's also research and other things that you can do to engage with the community. Hi, Suvik.
Hey, Katie. Sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Can you see the questions up on the screen right now?
I can now, yes.
Okay, cool, perfect. So just want to make sure that you have the questions on the screen set up. So I'm moderating the chat from the background, so you don't have to scroll through the questions. I can handpick the questions for you.
Okay, they keep disappearing off my screen though.
Oh no, I just turned it off.
Okay.
So for example, something like that, you
Great.
can take a question, and I'll keep more questions coming to you.
Great.
And as you finish answering them, I'll get the next question lined up.
Fabulous. This is great. I love this.
Great.
So I can take this question since it's up.
Yes.
Great. So great question about years of experience. The years of experience at MIT Sloan for our 2-year MBA is a range from about 2 to 10 years or 2 to 11 years, give or take. About 80% of our class is somewhere between 4 and 6 years of full-time post-undergraduate work experience. We do, like I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 executive level MBAs. One is a more traditional EMBA where the students come to campus on the weekends once or twice a month for 2 years. The other executive version of an MBA that we have is called the Sloan Fellows Program, actually turning 90 years old this year. And that is a program where you take a 1-year sabbatical and have 3 full semesters on campus, the summer, the fall, and the spring semester. What I think is important here is the 2 executive level MBA programs, they are more senior and more experienced. They're junior to senior level management roles that they're in now. They are somewhere between 10 and 20 or so years of work experience. They're often managing people, if not managing teams. So we're seeing more general management exposure or experience in those particular programs. So I'm happy to talk with folks offline. If you want to send our admissions office an email, we can make sure that it's myself or someone. If you're sort of in that 8 to 12 years of work experience and you want to understand which program might work best for you. What is most important is that everybody earns the same MBA from MIT. It doesn't differentiate the type of MBA you get. Sloan Fellows, Executive MBA, Full-Time MBA is really just the peer group that you're in class with for your core classes, as well as the schedule. So, question about discuss my future business plan as part of the program with people from Sloan. Yes, so entrepreneurial activities and innovation-focused activities run sort of rampant through MIT. I often think that it's kind of hard to avoid sometimes. So there's always opportunities both in a very structured format and a very unstructured format to engage in this ecosystem on campus or in Kendall Square, where MIT is located. Just to share your ideas, there is the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship is a place that I always tell students, just go show up. There's working spaces, there's socializing that happens in there, and there is this incredible community of collaboration where people want to help you move your idea forward. That may mean applying to be a part of an incubator or a contest or a program around MIT. It may just be showing up at something called the Venture Cafe, which happens once a week in Kendall Square, just to talk about your ideas and start networking until you find maybe the right partners or the right next path forward. Great question. Will the current political discussions on the visa affect the MBA program? So I don't have any breaking news to share today about what MIT's plans are for the fall semester. I know that there are a few committees, one headed by our co-assistant dean of admissions, on what the right solution or path forward is for this fall semester. And that does include the current restrictions that our administration has put in place for traveling to the U.S. But we are hopeful that things around the world will improve and that we will be able to welcome our students very soon to campus. I don't know if that 100% means being on campus September 1, or if it'll be more like a hybrid where we will be able to offer both virtual and on-campus experiences until everybody can get to campus. I do know that MIT is committed to making sure that you have, that everyone has the experience of a robust sort of deep dive into MIT, even if it means they're not able to get here right away. There will be an option for them until they're able to get here. Yeah, the quantitative skills at MIT. Sometimes I joke that you should be excited about the idea of using data or quantitative methods to look at problems or find solutions, but you definitely don't need to come to MIT with a STEM, a science, technology, engineering, math background. We have so many incredible students at MIT Sloan who are rising in their careers but come from liberal arts backgrounds or finance backgrounds. I do need to see in your application that you're comfortable with using data, or you're comfortable with some of the math principles. Though there's lots of ways that we can get you up to speed before you come on campus. I like to say you don't need to sleep with your accounting book or your finance book under your bed, but the little hairs on the back of your neck shouldn't stand up when I say algebra or calculus. So it is quantitative, but there's incredible support systems to get you through that. In the application, we'll look at your undergraduate transcripts, the courses that you took, and we'll also look at that test score. Those are two of your demonstrated successes to help us understand your comfort level with a rigorous academic environment, especially one that is leaning a little more quantitative. But we'll also look at your work successes and your personal attributes, which are your leadership potential. How do you work with people that are different than you every day? I want to change geographies. Great question. So how does MIT help our students reach the goal of maybe a career shift based on geography, but not specific to the US? We have a incredibly global alumni office or alumni community. When I get the opportunity to travel around the world, I'm often amazed at how many of our alumni come out to meet prospective students around the world. And they are so excited when they can play a role in maybe the internship process, the post-graduation process. Specifically this year with COVID-19, the alumni community worked very, very closely through the spring with our career development office to help create opportunities for any current students that may have lost their internship opportunity. No surprises, some industries were more affected by others, maybe hospitality, tourism, and by, I believe, the middle of April, over 100 students had found new opportunities through a community initiative with our alumni. The Career Development Office plays a huge role in this also, whether it's traditional on-campus recruiting or you're sort of carving out a path for yourself. It means maybe rolling up your sleeves a little more and a little more resilience. But yes, there are definitely students that are finding opportunities outside of the US market. Should the sole recommendation come from a direct supervisor? That is a great question. It is always our preference that your recommendation letter comes from either your current supervisor or a more recent supervisor. We are looking for that individual to share, be able to answer a few questions for us with positive anecdotal evidence, right? We like data at MIT. And this is where some of that qualitative data is really, really important to us. And so when you think about the questions that we're asking them, not only what is their relationship to you over the past few years, but where have they seen you grow and shine and sort of push boundaries, but where also are your areas for development and growth, and how does this next step in your path fit into those goals? And so usually your current supervisor can provide that most present data, but we understand if you're in a position where you're not comfortable yet sharing your future plans, Perhaps it's another senior leader that you have a mentoring relationship with, or a more recent supervisor. Sure. So, question about providing links of MIT scholarships and student loans that international students are eligible. So, there's a few answers in this question. One is that as an MIT Sloan student, you once you're admitted and ultimately decide to accept our offer, you have access to apply for student loans if that's one of the ways that you may be looking to cover the cost of your experience. MIT Sloan does support students with a few different organizations here in the U.S. For lending to non-U.S. citizens. Sometimes that means you need a cosigner. Maybe the terms will differ with a cosigner without a cosigner, but there is always an option to not have a cosigner. And the market just as the market shifts, that's what really impacts the terms of those loans. But we do have options for students at MIT Sloan to pursue that type of funding. In terms of scholarships or fellowships, there are a lot of options. Through the admissions process, our committee also awards what we call Dean's Office Fellowships. We award these to about 15 to 20% of the class for incoming students. And for the MBA program, they range from 15 to upwards of 35,000 US dollars. And they're typically spread across 2 semesters in that first year. These are based on merit, and they are assigned throughout the admissions process as a part of your acceptance into the program. There are lots of other scholarships and fellowships, both at MIT and outside of MIT, that we don't have any oversight into, and us being the admissions office. But there is on the graduate student financial services page, there's an entire bank of fellowships that you can explore based on your demographics, your future career plans. They may be seeded by a group of alumni, and they may be an outside consortium or organization that's sponsoring fellowships and scholarships. I would say, applying early to those and making sure you understand their deadlines as opposed how they match up to the admissions process deadlines is really, really important. Great. Good question. What is Sloan looking for in terms of an applicant's extracurricular activities? We like to see that, I know this is kind of like a buzzword, that you're a well-rounded applicant, right? That you're going above sort of what you do at work every day. We like to know what you do in your free time. A lot of times we learn about those extracurriculars through your video. So the 60-second video, I'll see folks that enjoy running or cooking, sort of wrapping that into their video. There's lots of ways to engage outside of the work that you do in your career path that may be engaging in activities in your office or in your company, and it may be an interest that you have outside of work. Both to us are equally as valuable, and hopefully what they show us is that you're looking for opportunities to grow, and sort of at MIT, we like to push the status quo and challenge boundaries, and what great ways to do that than extracurriculars. What do we consider about non-traditional MBA applicants? We think they're fantastic. I mentioned earlier, with MIT, so we do attract a fair number of engineers. It's just, I think, a natural progression or a natural thought to think about MIT for continuing studies. And it is an MBA program, so we do see traditional paths into an MBA from a career perspective. But we do have a great community of students that are coming in from government, military, education. I had an amazing student almost 10 years ago that came from the mayor's office here in Boston. Really, I think when I initially think about an MBA path, probably not the most traditional way into an MBA, but certainly having incredible impact on our community and continues to have great impact on our city government here. I have a faculty member who teaches data analytics, and she will often tell us that some of her best students come into the data analytics courses without a traditional STEM or math background, and because they see problems differently than if they already had that experience before her course. So they do exceptional at MIT, and we need more intersection of public and private business. And what better way to have those conversations in a classroom? There will be more coffee chats, I promise. We are slowly getting more and more coffee chats up online. My colleague Reed is actually the teammate that oversees all those coffee chats. And so we will be adding more of the small group coffee chats, and we will pay attention to the wait lists as well that are being built. And like I said earlier, we'll be adding some student versions of those once the students sort of wrapped up their first year and were getting acclimated to where they were going to be this summer. So more of those to come. Also more to come, if we will be rolling out a more robust recruiting calendar. Normally we would travel all over the world to see you, but obviously that's not an option this year. So we will be doing more of this, which will include more opportunities to chat that way. How is the Career Development Office connected in Asia, and can Sloan assist with a move from Europe to APAC? Yes, 100% yes. And this is what I talked about earlier. So there's obviously a few ways you can think about your path outside of beyond Sloan. The most traditional way is on-campus recruiting. It's a very well-oiled machine of companies coming onto campus. At MIT Sloan, that means finance and banking, consulting, tech, and healthcare, and they run throughout the year. Oftentimes what that means is you'll go through that process, but you're there to meet the company, right? And for them to meet you, and then the conversations grow beyond that, that initial first couple of meetings. And I've had students that find themselves in large companies all over the world that started from one conversation on campus with a representative from that organization. Most, I think, interesting and intriguing, and probably as someone on the inside of MIT, not surprising to me, is we're actually seeing a lot more of our students disrupt the more traditional on-campus recruiting. They're finding their next role beyond graduation, or their first job outside of graduation, through the network, through kind of rolling up their sleeves and talking to people. And one conversation leads to one thing and to another. And the Career Development Office, through one-on-one coaching, will absolutely aid you in that process. We have incredible alumni across the world. I had the opportunity to live and work in Asia, specifically in ASEAN, with MIT a few years ago. And I can tell you that in the role I played there, the MIT Alumni Association and the Sloan School alumni were invaluable to us being successful in our initiative. Let's see. I guess the question is, what's the differentiator for MIT Sloan when we think about our peer schools? It's a great question. A caveat, I know I'm a little biased. I've been at Sloan for almost 10 years now, and had a number of different roles to see the school grow. I know you're going to get a fantastic education at any of my peer schools. That I can guarantee. What I think is unique about Sloan is the people, the classroom experience you're going to have with those people. As I mentioned earlier, we want that environment you're learning in to be as diverse as possible, as collaborative as possible. I want you to learn from the people sitting around you and next to you every single day. The Sloan students, I've gotten to witness them doing some really what seemed like simple things, but they really, really drive community and support. I've seen on a Thursday evening students coming in out of study rooms to make sure that everyone on their team understands how to submit the homework. They understand the problem at hand. They understand the tool, the framework as a team, rather than one student saying, oh, I'll submit the homework for us because I want to go to the social event. They will stay in that room and support each other until it's time to move forward. And I think that that's really unique to a school like MIT. Again, I'm biased, so I can't speak to my other peer schools. There's also the idea or the opportunity to engage across MIT. there is so much going on at MIT, so much happening in the labs, so many engineers and postdocs that are looking to grow an idea into a real company if that's something that you're interested in. And just getting access to that kind of research, whether it's your own entrepreneurial venture that you're chasing or that's something you want to bring back and carve out in your next organization or your next industry, it's all there at your fingertips to take advantage of. Can I describe the culture of MIT and what do I think can be improved? So for me, I know the word collaborative and teamwork are a word we hear a lot in the management school circle, but I would say that the community at MIT has taught me over the last 9 or 10 years that what that really means. And from day one, I felt like my voice was always important at the table or always important in the room, even if I didn't come in with an expertise that was applicable to the conversation. There is an enormous amount of mutual respect across the students and the faculty and the administration, as well as significant others. There is just so much openness to learn from each other and to work together that I think, to me, that embodies the MIT spirit. It is also a very mission-driven school and very mission-driven institution. So if you're not familiar with the mission of MIT Sloan, it's to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world. And we don't just have that on the wall in our cafeteria for a reason. You see it in the syllabi of our faculty, and it's part of the discussion when things are complicated or when difficult conversations or decisions need to be made. The mission of the school always comes into play to that conversation. What do I think could improve? Oh gosh, I think we always are iterating and thinking about what we could do differently and what we could do better. Oh gosh, I think for me in the last couple of years, one of the ways I've been watching the school change, and I think we still have more to do, is in that cross collaboration across MIT, and creating more opportunities that don't that make sure our Sloan students are interacting with our postdocs across MIT or the undergraduate students that have business ideas, and not accepting that someone's just going to elect into that. So I think we'll see more of that with the launch of the College of Computing, the newest college to launch at MIT Sloan, the Schwarzman College. It's the newest college in 100 years, and it will cut across all the other schools of study, the Sloan School of Management, the Engineering School, the Life Sciences School. It won't be a siloed academic school. So I think that's really going to change things. And for me, that's what's important. Underrated element of MIT Sloan and a piece of the application that you should utilize. So 2 questions. A piece that I think is underrated about Sloan is its location. If you've never been to Boston, it is a small, big city, and MIT Sloan really sits in the middle of it. We're right on the river, the Charles River. It's a 10-minute walk across the river into Boston, which is headquarters of many large insurance and financial institutions, but there's also this incredible healthcare and medical community in the Cambridge-Boston area that MIT and MIT Sloan sit in the middle of the R&D center for all of that. It's called Kendall Square. And for every large global med tech or pharmaceutical company in the world, there are probably 10 small to medium large companies that are incredibly disruptive to the healthcare industry. And the fact that you can walk right out of Sloan, grab a coffee at a local coffee shop, and pass 10 of those companies every single day, to me is just a highlight of the location of where MIT is. What I think people should utilize more is take advantage of the video. Have some fun with the video. It's the best way for us to get to know your interests, your personality, and sort of help you come off the pages of the written application. the class size and how is it divided. So it is a relatively small MBA program by our peer schools numbers. Typically, it's been about 415 MBA students matriculate every year. This coming year, it will probably trickle up a little bit, closer to 450, 460. We don't know exactly what the final numbers will look like until we get to August or really September. But typically, it's about 415 MBA students. They are divided into sections. Usually in your section, you'll have about 60, 65 students. And then within that section, you have a study team or a core team of anywhere from 5 to 7 of your classmates. You're in that section and doing all of your assignments with that core team in the fall semester. So it becomes a big family, and there's a lot of fun that happens across these different sections with first years and second years. But then when it comes to that second, third, and fourth semester of electives, you're dispersed all over the curriculum. And I often hear students saying, oh, I got together with my Sunday nights, my core team night. And every Sunday night we get together and do homework together, even if they're not in the same classes. So you get, I think, the best of both worlds. You get this really incubated experience up front, but then you really disperse after that. Great. Do one more, or should we? Let's see here. Let's see. I'll try to get through them quick. Given the current employment predicament in the world right now, are we looking at applicants that have less than the average? So it really is a range. While the average is about 5 years of work experience, we do have a significant number of students that come in closer to 2 to 3 years of work experience. What's most important to us is that you're demonstrating to our committee the impact that you've had, no matter if you're at 2 years or 10 years of work experience, the impact you're having on the work that you do, on maybe the processes, the people around you. How are you challenging the status quo? We are looking for folks that are comfortable with being uncomfortable, which this day and age is probably something that we're all being tested with. But it is really quite a range from 2 to 10 years. So an entrepreneur has been helping his family businesses. I would say we see about 10% of the class come in as either coming from family business or an entrepreneur. We really, just like anyone coming from a multinational, I want to understand, the impact that you're having on the work that you do every day. Who are you working with? This is why we ask for the org chart. It may be dotted line to customers. It may help us understand the team that you work around or you work with every day. And what's the goal? What's the future for you look like? What are you looking to bring back to your family business specifically? And how does MIT play a role in that? What's attractive about MIT when you think about that? Oh gosh, standout applications. So we actually don't have an essay as part of our application. We have a secret essay about about how you've engaged in a diverse community. If you're invited to interview, you're asked to submit that. But standout applications are ones that help me see that successes you've had at work, but also, what's the extra step you took to stand up for what you believed in or push an initiative forward that maybe was uncomfortable, or the solution was kind of messy and maybe didn't seem like the right step forward at the time. My number one piece of advice with the application process is just follow the directions. Seems simple, but that's what I would say is number one piece of advice, follow the directions. So this is a question about our Masters of Finance program, and if 2 years is a disadvantage. It is not a disadvantage, right? We're showing a range and a spectrum of experiences. It is what we call a career launcher. So that's typically why the average years of experience in that program is closer to, I think it's 14 months of postgraduate work experience. But it is a range from 0 to upwards of, I think, 4 or 5 years of work experience. When you get into 4 or 5 years of work experience, my question for anyone interested or thinking about a specialty master's is, what is the next step in your career path? And the difference with an MBA and a specialty master's is how technical you want your next roles to be, and what that growth up through the organization looks like for you based on your goals. So I would say continue exploring both options, continue getting to know our current students and alumni that have done both the MBA or the MFin. There isn't a finance track in the MBA, so definitely something to continue exploring. All right, I think I'm getting a note. I think we're good to go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I know we didn't get everyone's questions answered, so don't be a stranger. Please stay in touch with us at MIT Sloan, and we hope to see you on a future event.